And we are going to go to Pennsylvania. We're going to talk with Chloe. She, her, is a theist and wants to talk to us about her deities and how her faith is not anti-queer. So, hey, Chloe, you're on with Christy and SR. What is up?
Not much. Just enjoying the show.
Thanks.
Used to be an atheist, and I do really support the work of the Atheist Community in Austin. So, hats off to you.
We appreciate that. Yeah, tell us about your faith and how your faith is a little bit different. It sounds like from a lot of versions of Christianity and other anti-queer faiths. So tell us about that, I guess, a little.
Oh, perfect. So the underlying problem is that I'm not even Christian. I'm pagan. I want to get this, you probably have pagans at least calling in at least a couple of months, every couple of months at least, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You got to hear from us. You hear from us regularly.
Yeah, I'm not as well acquainted with it as I am with most Judeo-Christian religions, but definitely, I mean, being a queer therapist in Austin, Texas, I'm definitely interacting with a lot of pagans. I'll say that I think part of what is maybe challenging for me to understand about your belief system is that it's not super codified or nailed down, which bug feature, I don't know. But tell us about why you're calling, Chloe, and why that contrast is so significant to you.
So the contrast that's significant to me is that what brought me out of atheism into theism was transitioning. As you can tell by my voice, I'm pretty clockable. I'm transgender. I make no attempts to hide that fact, and I'm pretty stalwart about it.
Sure.
When I got on HRT, one of the things that they warn you about is that your feelings are going to change. And one of the things I did not realize was going to change for me was my feelings towards theism. You're going to get guys like Ocean Keltoy railing against people who calls quote unquote fluffy bunnies. And I love Keltoy to death. I am a big fan, big supporter. But it was a lot of the fluffy bunny stuff that I felt a lot of that gender affirmation from. And that gender affirmation, I really could not understand from a scientific point of view.
Sure,
so
I get that.
So you get that. And a lot of that led me into the serious side and led me to seek out guys like Ocean Keltoy and away from the fluffy bunny stuff. And it is in the stories in Norse paganism that we have like Thor dressing in drag just to get his hammer back. Speaking of, breaking out the hammers. We have Odin learning a feminine type of magic called Sather, which involves transmutating some in part or in all form into a woman. So that leads to a lot of gender questions among the Norse there. We have Loki, obviously, like well known for being extremely bisexual and extremely disaster bisexual. The reason why I'm calling is that for some of us theists, our queerness is directly linked into our faith.
Sure.
It is so interlocked into that faith. The only request I really have, the only thing I really want to debate you on is being more kind to faith as a whole, and really centering in on what is the problem, which is this Judeo-Christian ultra hardcore right wing. They're the problem. Like we can all agree they're the problem, right?
Yeah, I might push back on that piece of it, but sorry, let me let you jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in real quick, Chloe, because at the very least, I think this is deeply, deeply important that you called us today. And one of the big reasons I think that it's so important is because I always want to express to theists out there and to people who just aren't, necessarily in my, label camp, whatever, right? We can work together on so many issues that are of intense importance right here, right now, just like this, right? Like whether or not you believe in Loki, whether or not I don't, doesn't matter when it comes to us fighting for LGBTQ rights in the US, right? And I think that is incredibly, incredibly important. And we need more theists out there to join those of us that are in the non-religious camp, because, I mean, goodness gracious, just look at the numbers. When you actually look at the numbers, oddly enough, most of the people that are queer in this world are actually believers of some kind, you know, because atheists are still a really small number, and we need to build that broad coalition and you know, keep it as strong as possible. With all of that being said, I always love those opportunities where we can come together and disagree about, you know, nuanced positions and do so cordially. And I would say that when you said that point about like faith as a whole isn't really the problem, I would say, depending on how you're defining what faith is, I would say that faith is the problem. Like, that is the crux of the issue in my eyes for so much of this. And again, I think that even though that's deeply important to me on a lot of levels, I also think that that is something that we can hardcore, you know, knock out, drag down, just beat each other up verbally in the debate arena on that, and then still stand up from the table and go stand at the front line and protest all of this garbage that we're seeing that is anti-queer right now, you know? But I do just think it's worth pointing out that where we connect and where we're on the same page. And then, yeah, I still have my problems with some faith and stuff. I still have my problems with the pagan understanding and things. But yeah, I am much more focused, I think, in these moments of saying like, hey, let's work together as much as we can because of honestly just the toxic garbage that seems to be spewing out of some people's mouth in the US right now. So, but real quick, Chloe, before we give it back to you, I want to hear what Christy's thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I line up with a lot of what you are both sort of saying, which is that, all right, just because you're religious doesn't mean you're anti-queer, and that's great. I would much rather have a pro-queer religion than an anti-queer religion. But the problem for me, so to speak, is still the idea that religion is something that we don't apply the same rationality, the same wise-minded type of thinking to as we do other aspects of life. And so we have the potential, the possibility of being taken over to a faith where we do believe in things that are really painful and problematic. Like going to the store and saying, okay, I bought a religion, but don't worry, it's a pro-queer religion, doesn't make me feel a whole lot better, because even though there is not that like anti-LGBT violence inherent in it, you're still shopping in the wrong store. You're still using a skill set that can lead you into some very dangerous directions. I mean, does that feel at all fair to say, Chloe?
Well, what I would say to you is that the part of Pennsylvania I'm in Philadelphia, and what I would say is that you wouldn't judge all sports you wouldn't judge all sports fans based on how Philly fans act or how, you know, soccer hooligans act. As a whole. And these are clearly problems. These are clearly, you know, destruction of property, you know, people climbing on poles, people getting drunk, people beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is without even talking about Penn State and Sandusky. And yeah, there's problems with sports fanaticism. Hooliganism can be dangerous.
There's problems with sports fanaticism, but you wouldn't throw out all of sports, because then you would lose Hoosiers. You'd lose Ted Lasso. You would lose.
Chloe, can I just jump in for a second? And because I do like that analogy, at least to a little bit. But I wanna focus us a bit more, because and Christy, please, if I'm wrong on this, you jump in. But I think more so what Christy and I are saying is not necessarily that we're judging the sports as a whole because of the fans' actions. We're saying, I know I'm saying this, I think Christy is on this too, that there is something inherent about sports itself that is problematic.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a little bit of trouble with the analogy, because it is different. Faith is more of this prescription thing, whereas sports is more of just this kind of like generalized concept that we just put stuff into for our own purposes, right? But like at its core, the whole thing about faith, right, is kind of like believing stuff without necessarily having good justification. And we could say, hey, faith and trust are the same thing. We can talk about that. My argument with that would just be like, why have different words then, unless we're not trying to get across different understandings, right? That's why we have a word for cup, and then we have a word for mug. Like, are they pretty much the same thing? Yeah, totally. But also they are different in ways that matter. And I think the way that it matters when it comes to faith is, again, kind of like what Christy was saying. It seems to be, we take just this one category of life and we apply this one method to it, and then we never do that in anywhere else in life. And that's where I think the issue is. Does that kind of make sense?
That makes sense to me, but what I think you're missing, and why I thought sports was a valid analogy here, is that I think that there's a lot of things that we do in our lives generally that serve no rational purpose,
Sure,
but serve emotional purposes and serve cultural purposes.
Yeah,
I don't know how distinct those really are, but that can be. It could take us hours to tease all of that out. Let me let you continue.
Yeah. But you got to admit that this is a more interesting conversation than whether or not queers are valid.
Oh yeah. Christy, I think Christy, Chloe, you, the three of us, we've already settled that. It's like, oh hell yeah, why are we talking about this still? Are there assholes out there that are saying otherwise? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm loving this conversation. So,
but like my only thing I really want to get across is that I really do think that I don't think you should really totally soften your language. I think that the language should just be more thoughtful and considered.
Well, I gotta say, Chloe, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Only to the degree that it's been shown to you. Only to the degree that it's been shown to you, which is just it's a little bit, and just maybe try to soften things a little bit.
Yeah, and I am always a big fan of cordial communication, challenging discussions, right? Difficult conversations to be had, where we're both laying out our ideas and hashing stuff out, but doing so in a way that really is friendly. All that being said, though, and we have touched on it a little bit tonight, but I do think it's worth saying again, which is, if you're in a conversation with somebody where they are repeatedly demonizing you, they are repeatedly saying that you don't exist, you don't have to be, don't be a fucking part of that conversation. I mean, I've cussed a lot today because I get fired up about this. So, but I seriously, like, don't be a part of that conversation. You absolutely do not owe anybody anything close to that, and flip them off and walk away happy. But yeah, I'm a big believer in, as much as we can, being kind to each other and being compassionate with each other, especially because I think one of the things that really, really throws like a hardcore bigot or fundamentalist like through a loop is when they meet somebody who's trans and that person is just like the coolest person ever. They are just a really, really good person, and they can't justify that because their head's going through this, messed up contortion of garbage where it's like, oh, I was told that gay people are horrible and they're all just debaucherous and oh my gosh, how is this a good person? I love to see people scrambling when they meet somebody and the person just casually says like, oh yeah, I'm a lesbian and I'm atheist, and the person is like, oh my, but you're a good person. So yeah, I love that. I love killing people with kindness if possible. So before we let you go, Chloe, Christy, do you have anything else you wanna wrap us up on?
No, I think that really hits it all. Just that it's important to remember that, yeah, we can have we can come to the same conclusions about a number of issues, and that's great. And we can get along around all of that. But there is still meaningful value in us doing these programs and trying to encourage the world to think critically, to think skeptically, because that is our best protection against anti-queer religion and a number of other pieces of shit that we really shouldn't be participating in or a part of. So I appreciate, Chloe, that you aren't holding those types of beliefs. I just hope that you hold every belief with a sense of like skepticism and curiosity, and above all else, a concern for your fellow human. So thanks so much for the call.
I came into this secular atheist, so I knew exactly what to expect.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much,
right,
Chloe.
thanks so
And
much.
seriously, give us a call back in the future, because we would absolutely love to talk more about your queer deities, how you understand them, how you got to that conclusion and stuff. But in the meantime, keep fighting the good fight, and we'll be right standing next to you. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad we started off on a call like that.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that, because I love to take that opportunity and say, look, we can get here and we can get in our groups, and we can share the memes and make fun of this stupid holy book and stuff. We could do all that, but I love those moments when we can reach across ideological divides and say, like, no, I'm done letting people run roughshod over other people's rights.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm always happy for that. So,
well, I think it's worth saying that, myself as a queer person, I think most of the queer people in this audience, probably everybody in the audience, honestly, can relate to the idea of better understanding their own sexuality, their own orientation, their own identity through fiction, through literature. And if that comes with an idea of like meditation or prayer or some of these notions of like focused attention in that way, fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate that Chloe's had that experience. I just, would want there to be a recognition that these are fictional characters.